Sweet.
Let me stand up. Let me sit up straight now.
So we were there for a second.
You can do it if you want.
Wait, oh wait, you guys start.
Shut up! All right, everyone pulled up at 7:05. So welcome everybody. I am officially starting the meeting. So greetings, welcome, welcome. I see no guests today, so welcome members of New Beginnings Toastmasters. My name is Sean Markle, and I am the Sergeant at Arms for this meeting. So who's ready for tonight? Awesome. All right, let's get the show on the road. Now, first, hand it over to our invocation tonight, which will be Miss Priscilla Hernandez. Please give her a warm welcome.
Hello, hello. Tonight I'll be starting off with a quote. It's one of my favorite quotes. It's by Dr. Seuss. And it is, unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, it's not going to get better, it's not. Now, it means a lot to me because we do a lot of annual training in the Navy, and they teach you about like sexual assault and other assaults. And one of the things that they teach us is this idea of bystander intervention. So if you see something wrong, if it looks wrong or if it seems wrong, it just feels like it's wrong, say something. Or else a lot of people have this idea that I see something wrong, but I feel like someone else is going to say something about it. So I'm not going to say anything because I feel like this person's going to say something. Someone already said something about it. And a lot of people get that idea, so that nothing ever ends up changing or intervening with. What's the word? Situations. Sheesh. Yeah, that's what I got for you guys. I will now pass it off to our president.
Acting president.
The acting president, Zach Phillips.
Good evening, one and all, to New Beginnings Toastmasters. My name is Zach Phillips. Glad you could all attend. I do see a bunch of familiar faces and one returning guest. He hasn't been here in like 2, maybe 3 months, maybe more like 4 or 5. I don't know.
Based on that beard growth, I'm guessing at least a year.
He looks like a handsome Uncle Phil or something. But anyways, so Merritt Green, you want to speak a little bit about where you've been, what you've been doing, etc.?
Hey, so it's great to see you guys again. Whenever Zach calls, I always answer the call, and I don't have Toastmasters meetings on Tuesday night, so I always make space in my schedule for New Beginnings. So since you guys last seen me, I moved from Virginia to Pennsylvania, so to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where I joined a new Toastmasters club here in Pennsylvania, Susquehanna Icebreakers, I believe the name is. And then I signed up to become an area director. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Fancy.
So I'm the area director for Area 13. So you guys know, like, I'm planning a speech contest. I may call you guys for a favor to be a part of my area club, my area contest. So I remember all the things that I learned from New Beginnings in your club contest last year. So that's what I've been up to. Just been busy working and being retired, enjoying life. No complaints.
Cool. Glad to see you here. And you'll be evaluating Robert Riggs' speech later on this evening. Couple announcements. One big announcement, and then I don't know if someone else has an announcement. So our schedule has been changed. We, instead of meeting the 23rd for the educational session, we're going to push it forward to the 16th. Or wait, no, is that correct? 16th?
Yes.
Yes, all right. The 16th, and then we're going to give you the rest of the month off, so including Thanksgiving week and the final week, final Tuesday. So yeah, our next meeting is the 16th. We're going to have an educational presentation about just what goes on in in-person meeting, since we haven't done those in a long time. There's still things that I'm learning, as an example. But then, and then after that, our next and then also, if there's time, which I'm sure there's going to be plenty of time, I'll also do speeches as well. So I put 2 speakers and 2 evaluators up. Looking forward to Niv giving her icebreaker. Mallory can't show up for this meeting, but maybe Priscilla, maybe you could give a speech next week. Yeah, here. There we go. We'll pre-sign up already. Awesome. And then after that, our next meeting after that is going to be December the 7th. And we're going to have a holiday party on December the 14th. And then the rest of December will be off for any holiday, every holiday. You can make a Festivus, whatever. All right, so any other announcements before we turn it over to the Toastmaster of the evening? Okay, then I guess we'll bring up Mr. Sean Markle, our Toastmaster of the evening, and he's going to take it from here.
Hello, everybody. I'm back up here again. I am the Toastmaster of the evening. So we have officially entered the month of November, right? And with November, a bunch of fun holidays come with it. For example, Thanksgiving, Veterans Day, Diwali. Does anyone from last time's meeting remember what the Diwali is?
It's an Indian festival that involves,
Festival
firecrackers,
lights.
sparklers, lights.
Yes, celebration of lights. Yes, correct. And also, we also have All Saints Day, International Day of Tolerance, and National Sunday Day, and National Bison Day. It's interesting. I didn't know about that. Is anyone celebrating any of these holidays? Bison Day?
Thanksgiving.
Thanksgiving? Awesome. Who else is?
On Tolerance Day, did they tolerate intolerance?
I gotta ask the guy who created all tolerance. Day. That's that guy, yeah. But who's celebrating Thanksgiving? Anybody? Awesome.
Go ahead with the
Majority of the crowd. Awesome. Heck yeah. So anyways, enough about holidays. I digress. So let's get back into Toastmasters. So what does a Toastmaster of the evening do? So pretty much the Toastmaster of the evening, put into short, is like the pilot of an airplane. I ensure that there's no turbulence and the ride goes smooth and mellow. But luckily, I'm not the only one running the whole plane. I have the help of my co-pilot, which is the general evaluator, and my fellow flight attendants, the helper roles, who will help make our journey be a fun, safe, and exciting experience. Our flight is divided up into 3 portions tonight. The first portion consists of speeches by Ms. Donna James and also Mr. Robert Riggs. And our second portion of the flight consists of table topics, which will be hosted by our table topics master, Mr. Zach Phillips. And finally, our last portion, the third portion of our flight, consists of evaluations, which will be hosted by Ms. Tammy Adama and also Mr. Merrick Green. Awesome. So now it is my pleasure to introduce my expert co-pilot, aka the general evaluator, Mr. Andrew Bullock. So please give him a warm.
Thank you. This is your general evaluator speaking. It is my duty to help guide this meeting along. I actually evaluate this meeting from beginning, evaluate this event from the end of the last event and all the way up until the conclusion of this event. And I will be giving my report at the end of the meeting. But along with that, I got a little bit of help. So let's introduce our flight attendants. Our grammarian counter is Mr. Luke Dobbs. Please tell us about your role.
Thank you, General Evaluator Andrew. As the grammarian, I will keep an eye out throughout the meeting through the speeches and our table topics. 4 uses of notable grammar and perhaps misuses of notable grammar, and try to report that in the meeting. Also, additionally, as the counter, I will also keep an ear out for filler words used throughout your speeches, such as like, or like I just did. So with that, back to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Attendant Dobbs. Next up is our Word Master Listen Up, and that will be handled by Priscilla Hernandez. Please tell us about your role.
Hello, I'm the Word Master / Listen Up person. So for Word Master, I'm going to be giving y'all a fancy word that you guys will try to use throughout our event tonight. And I'm going to be seeing which of y'all use it. I'm going to give you the definition in a minute after I explain what Listen Up is. So I'm going to be listening very attentively to everything that goes on in the speech or in the event, and you guys should be too, because at the end I'm going to pick and choose certain phrases or details out of what someone says, and I'm going to quiz y'all at the end to see if y'all are listening. So listen up. So your word for tonight will be, I gotta make sure, it's obfuscate.
It's not truncate.
It is not. It is obfuscate, and I feel super bad about this, but I left my paper back there. I'm just gonna it's right here. Okay. So obfuscate is to confuse someone or to obscure the meaning of something. So like an example would be how teenagers use emojis and slang words in to obfuscate their messages from their parents.
So I was obfuscated by the fact that Luke Dobbs wrote truncate.
Right, exactly. See, that's where
Is that
we're
different
right
than
there.
obfuscate?
Try to usurp her role.
All right, so that's it for me. I believe the next person is the timer.
Oh, I got you. Thank you, Priscilla. All righty. Let's not obfuscate the role of the Journal Evaluator. All right. Next up is our timer, David Din. Please tell us about your role.
As timer, it is my duty to record individual parts of the meeting. At the minimum time requirement, I will display the green light. At the midway mark, I will display the yellow light. And at the maximum time requirement, I will display the red light. Icebreaker speeches are 4 to 6 minutes in duration, but since there's no icebreakers,
The first speech is 5 to 7 minutes, and the second speech is 18 to 22 minutes.
Correction, I'm electing to have that for 25 to 30 minutes.
25 to 30 minutes.
table topics are 1 to 2 minutes, and evaluations are 2 to 3 minutes. At the end of the meeting, I will give my report to the general evaluator.
Thank you, David. All right. And last but not least, our topics master is Mr. Zachary Phillips. Please tell us about your role.
So I am your topics master for this evening. And I was thinking it over based on the speech I gave last time. I think it was last week. It was all about like randomness, rolls of the dice. So I found online a random sentence generator and a random question generator. So we'll just let the fate of the winds. Like right now, it's if you could have the attention of the world for 1 minute, what would you say? That's actually a pretty good table topics question. They may not all be good. They may be horrible. I don't know. We'll find out. Back to you, Andrew Bullock.
Thank you, Mr. Phillips. All righty. So we'll be hearing from those people later on in the meeting event, and I will give my report at the conclusion of the event. Back to you, Pilot.
Awesome. Thank you, my co-pilot, and also my flight attendants. Thank you all for the help. So now we will move on to the first portion of our meeting, which consists of prepared speeches. So tonight we have two courageous, seasoned speakers, which are Ms. Donna James and also Robert Riggs. So the first speaker is none other than the great Donna James, who will be working on Pathways Leadership Development L3 Elective, Know Your Sense of Humor. And the speech title is, Isn't Family Funny? Donna has been a member of Toastmasters for over 5 years. She was a registered nurse and currently a birth analyst, helped to design and help electronic health records. She's always been drawn to public speakers and has a desire to be a motivational speaker. Welcome to the virtual lectern, Donna James.
Now, isn't life and family funny? I deal with funny family members every day. They have something about them that makes them unique, but they do things that are very hilarious. For instance, let's think about my father. He has had a number of humorous events that happened in his life. Event number one was a time when he would go to sleep and he would go into a deep, deep sleep. And whenever he slept, sometimes he was often found talking in his sleep, mumbling certain words or whatever. My mother became mortified and embarrassed because anything would come out of his mouth. If we had friends coming over to visit us, my mother would tap him and tell him to go back in the bedroom and lay down because she would be embarrassed about what he would do if somebody came in while he was sleeping. So this particular day, my father was on the couch, and as usual, he was in a deep sleep, snoring very intensely. He had just finished eating a big meal. And you know, after we eat, there's certain bodily noises that our bodies can make. I'm not going to be graphic, but you can use your imagination, right? So my dad is laying on the couch, and he releases a bodily sound and says to my mother out loud, "Answer the phone, Shirley." We were mortified. He actually thought the noise that he was making from his body was the phone ring. And we ran to our father. We ran to our mother, who was out in the backyard laying in the lounge chair during the summer months. And she just couldn't understand why we were laughing so hard until we told her the story. And she just couldn't stop laughing. My father has been a source of humor. There was also an incident where we went to Golden Corral. I know some of you may have remembered when Golden Corral first opened up. It's a buffeteria. You can eat all you want to eat. So one day my mother and I went, and we decided we were going to take my father with us. So my father goes into the Golden Corral, and his eyes just got big as 50-cent pieces as he looked at all of the different types of foods, the desserts, the breads, the main courses. He ate himself into an oblivion. We got home and my dad was sitting there. He was a very large man with a large round stomach. He's sitting on a couch and he's rocking from side to side. And my mother's like, "Well, what's wrong with you?" He's like, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe. I ate too much. I can't breathe. I need an inhaler. I need an inhaler." So my mom runs through the house and gets an inhaler. And while he's puffing on an inhaler, my mother said, "I told you about allowing your eyes to be bigger than your belly. If you didn't go into the Golden Corral and was so greedy, you wouldn't be sitting here right now struggling to breathe." But it was a hilarious moment. It took about 2 hours before my father was able to exhale. I have another family member. It's a cousin. He has a son. His son was 17, going on 18. And you know, when you're at that age of 17 and 18, you think you know it all. And you sometimes have the tendency to talk back to your father. Now, my uncle was in his mid to late 60s. And this particular day, my cousin decided to flex at my uncle. Bad move, bad move. Before he knew it, he knew my uncle was going to start chasing him. Here they are chasing each other down the street. When he would duck, my uncle would duck. When he would get low, my uncle would get low. When he swerved, my uncle would swerve. Then there was a wire fence, and my cousin thought he had it made in the shade. He climbed over the wire fence and jumped on the other side, ran into the backyard of the neighbor and stood there and turned around and looked at my dad and said, my uncle, and said, bring it on, bring it on. That was all my uncle needed. My uncle stood there like a bull and began to move both of his legs and shift from side to side. He took off running, and like Jesse Owens, he leaped over the fence, lifted his belly up and jumped over the fence. At that point, what could my cousin do but fall to his knees and raise his hand and says, I give up. I'm busted. I'm busted. Do whatever you want. Just don't jump over a fence again. It was the funniest sight that you could ever see. Then there is a situation with my family when it comes to Thanksgiving. Now, you know, Thanksgiving is approaching. And with Thanksgiving, we have family members that are coming. And guess what? There is always one particular family member that thinks she can cook, but can't cook a lick. And that was my Aunt Marie. She would throw a pot every year of cream of mushroom soup, meatballs, string beans, and provolone cheese. And she wouldn't bake it to make a casserole. She would just throw it in a pot, cook it up, stir it up, put a garlic in it, and have the whole house filled with the smell of garlic, and no one wanted to touch it. So here we are standing in line. Everyone has a paper plate in hand. They put in the plate for her food, and they pass it to the one. The one person passes it to the other until it gets passed to the very end. And guess what? Someone takes it and just scrapes it into the trash. My aunt walks up to the pot and says, oh, everybody must love my cooking. Guess what? I've got 2 more pots in the trunk of my car. Everyone's like, oh God, no, she did. No, she didn't. But she did. She had 2 big old pots of that grotesque food in the car. It is nothing quite like family. Every person has family members that they can relate to. There are memories that you can capture and remember to laugh when things get you down. But there's nothing quite like family. But there's nothing funnier than family members who bring a level of humor that's none other. You don't have to be a comedian to make people funny. You just have to have a family-like mind to make your life funny. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Awesome, Donna. Thank you so much for the beautiful speech. It was a hilarious speech, yet heart-moving speech. So thank you. And now we will move it on to Robert Riggs, who will be giving his speech in the Pathways Visionary Communications L5 elective, Prepare to Speak Professionally. The speech title is titled The Power of Contentment. Our final speaker of the day is a fairly long-winded and thus is electing to speak for at least 25 to 30 minutes. He is completing the second longest project in the Pathways and hopes you enjoy the topic he picked. Otherwise, it will be a long half hour. Please welcome to the lectern the Dave Ramsey Fan Club president.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster Evening, and welcome everybody to a beautiful conversation about the power of contentment. Contentment is kind of an elusive topic. It's something that a lot of us don't necessarily think about until we don't really feel comfortable with our lives, until we've decided that I want something more than I have, or maybe I have too much stuff and my stuff owns me, I don't own it. There's a lot of left and right and up and down, and there's no perfect answer for what we can do in our lives to make ourselves more content. So I'm going to tell you a little bit first about my journey. And I first want to thank, I think it's Merrick. Is that correct, Merrick, you're sharing right now? Oh, all right. Mr. Andrew Bullock. First, I want to apologize if there's any technical issues. We tried to get my laptop to run the PowerPoint 2 or 3 different ways. And unfortunately, this is plan B or C or D. We're not sure yet. But if there is any disconnect whatsoever, anybody who's online, know that I have forwarded the PowerPoint to you ahead of time. In addition, I have also emailed out a list to you that we're going to work off of later about needs versus wants, and about how you can pick over your contentment for the next week. So next slide, please. All right. I would like to start by telling you a journey about a little boy named Robert Riggs, and he was about, 25 or maybe even 24, but he went off to college and then he had a really good time in college, okay? Robert Riggs had a great time in college and he learned about the arts of wants versus needs in college. He was young and he discovered that sometimes having a want to go out and party versus a need to stay in and study was a difficult thing to balance. As a matter of fact, there's no better way to learn your time commitments and the ability to manage your time than to learn how to fail, literally, on an exam and then say, hey, maybe I need to study more versus party less. So sometimes when you have these want versus needs ideas, it feels like a balancing obstacle. Sometimes it feels like 2 paths that you get to choose from. One is walking towards the want, and you have to then turn and walk back towards the need. It's not so much maybe a balancing trick as much as it's just a choice. It's a choice of want versus need. Mentally, we don't always know what our wants and needs are, and sometimes we just stumble around in the dark. We may be walking on a path, but maybe we're just not looking at the path before we do it. But honestly, I would say for me, my want versus need looks more like this. Next, please. That to me is what a want versus need looks like. I think more often than not, I see the need, the apple, and I have a want, the pile of cookies. Just so you know how desperately I looked at this picture, I actually noticed that there were 8 cookies, and they're all perfectly vanilla chocolate, my favorite mixture. So I can tell you right now, that was definitely me as a kid. That was me in college, especially when I gained my freshman 30. And for sure, that has continued to be me to this day. Sometimes I eat lumpia when I shouldn't, but thank you so much, Lou. That's delicious. Or pudding, that's right. I had a bunch of pudding yesterday. I think wants and needs really is more closely connected to a choice between what is delicious and what is nutritious. Next slide, please. So in this experiment of going to college, I first went to college with this idea of I'm not going to spend a lot. I'm going to basically find a way to go through college, study hard, get great grades, enjoy along the way, but I'm not going to spend a lot. And I was really good the first 3 years or so, maybe even 4. But what happened? I got a good, close group of friends, and I discovered that there's this thing called credit cards. Yes, I had a credit card at 18, but you know when I really discovered credit cards? When Bank of America came to me and said, you know what, you've had such a good run of credit cards from the age of 18 to 21 that you can get a credit card with points. Ooh, what's points? You can get a credit card with cash back. Ooh, what's cash back? And me being the diligent saver that I was, and I was very cheap, I budgeted well. You know what I did? I said, well, if I pay off the credit card every month, when I use my credit card, I get points. That was smart, right? And then I said, you know what? 22, 23, I have these credit cards that I can get points and stuff like that. But you know what else they gave me? 18 months of no interest. That's right. I got 18 months of no interest. Did you know that you can charge your tuition onto your credit card, assuming that there's no fee? And at that time, there was no fee at UVA. And then your parents can give you the money for tuition and you can pay it off and you get a free $120 just like that. Did you know that you can take an entire 8 months worth of rent for you and 3 roommates and you can charge it for no fees onto your credit card and then your friends can slowly pay you back over 8 months? And who gets to keep all the cash back? You do. And I learned at that moment that scammers can't use your credit card if you keep it maxed out. That's kind of smart, isn't it? Kind of makes a lot of sense. Absolutely. And what this started for me was a moment to use credit cards. Why? Because I didn't have the cash. Now, I had a part-time job near the end of college. But what did I not have? Was I able to go on vacations down to the Dominican Republic like my friends did? Was I able to buy a nice Jeep and go four-wheeling with all the rich kids? No. But what I could do is I could take a credit card and I could buy like I was rich. Why? Because I was not content. I said, I want. You know what all my friends, they're going out and doing? I don't know what their financial situation is, but I have a fear of missing out, okay? I was not comfortable with who I was. I went from being the guy who was just comfortable moving along in college, and then credit cards came along and I became a different person. Next slide, please. Honestly, I kind of thought math worked like that for a while. If you really think about it, this is what a college student tries to do, especially when they get credit cards. Zach, have you ever gotten a tip like that as a server? No. Oh, great service. Why don't you give me money for the wonderful service you just gave? I actually went to some great French fusion restaurants when back near the end of college in Charlottesville. I can tell you right now, steak tartare with quail egg, superb. I love it. Not sure I would ever afford to buy one ever again, or even gator meat. That's something delicious as well. But sometimes you get that bill and you say to yourself, you know what, I can just subtract everything off. It'll work out. It doesn't work out like that, not in real life. So what happened is I went to college, had a bunch of credit card debt. Eventually these 18 months catch up to you. You stop being able to pay one card down and live one up other. You just keep moving the balance around. It's called a surety. And you say, I want to move forward in life. Well, I want to go to med school. I did go to med school, but first I had to crawl back to old mom and dad and say, hey, can I borrow some money, pay off this credit card because it's coming due? Never paid, I'll tell you right now, I've never paid credit card interest in my entire life, even to this day. But I have had to borrow money from my parents to pay off a credit card and to pay them back. That's not a fun feeling. So I kept doing that, and I went to medical school and I got a little better, but I still had some unique spending habits, especially when it came to student loans. You see, student loans, you go from, if you can go back for 1 second, go back. You'll notice in college, it's a lot of fun. And if you can go forward, you'll notice that college ends all that fun when you get student loans. That's why you have unhappy faces. Student loans are sometimes, they feel like a trap. This was an opportunity for me to reevaluate where I was, where I went, and to go back to the beginning. It's a chance to reset what my parents taught me. I have these student loans. I have med school debt. Everything. When in 2012, I decided to quit med school, and I got out and I said, you know what? I have $60,000 in debt, and I have not a lot of financial prospects ahead of me to pay this off. Honestly, I became even more cheap than I thought I could be. Next forward, please. And I started thinking, you know what? You can't get student debt if you don't go to college. I thought maybe that was the best thing to do. If I never go to college, if I never go to grad school, I never go to med school. It's smart, right? Smart. You can't get student debt if you don't go to college. Well, that's true. You have to advance your career somehow. You have to be willing to put money somewhere to invest in your future. Yes, but I thought if I don't have to invest in myself, I don't have to spend anything. I also said you can't go into debt if you don't spend money you don't have. Now, that's true. But what if you don't have any money and you're just constantly at home grinding and grinding and grinding, and you say to yourself, what is my life really here for? What is my purpose? Is it just to pay off student debt for the rest of my life and do absolutely nothing? Honestly, when I help a lot of people with their money, especially people in student loan debt, that's a very interesting conversation I get to have with everybody. Truth be told, the only way to get out of debt is to have gazelle intensities, to go as fast as you can. And then once you get to $0 net worth, that is an amazing feeling. The problem is that if you get to $0 net worth, sometimes that ultra cheapness carries forward. And you say to yourself, can't go into debt if you don't have any money. Well, the problem was I had money eventually, and I still felt like I had student debt. Next slide. Truth be told, I wore this shirt almost every day. My favorite F word is free. Can't beat free. My best friend's dad told me that so many times and I believed it. And it's true, you can't beat free. If I get a free car, even a free car battery, you can't beat free. The only way you can beat it is for somebody to pay you to take a car. If they're giving you a car and paying you, then there's probably a reason, okay? You can't beat free. Go look on Facebook Marketplace. There's a lot of things you can get there for free. It's true. That became my philosophy for a long time. But it also meant that if you only get free things, it means you can't get a lot of fun things. Okay? It means if you go on vacation, it means you have to go stay with a friend. You can't afford a hotel room. Next slide, please. And then I discovered a middle ground. And that middle ground happened right around, maybe a year after I got to my $0 net worth. And I said, you know what? You know what's really smart? You can't be poor if you're rich. Well, how do you define rich? Is it a high salary? I mean, a lot of people I know make $150,000 a year, and they still live paycheck to paycheck. It's because everything inside that they're making, they go out to other people with other people's names on it. They have a lot of debt, right? So I said, well, it's not so much the salary, it's not the income problem. I don't have any more debts, it's not a debt problem. So am I going to be happier if I make a bunch of money, but I'm still super cheap all the time? Well, that depends. What am I really here to do? What is my goal in life? There's a lot of things I want to do. But it is true, you can't be poor if you're rich. What that really means is your mindset can't be poor if you have a rich mindset. And so I started to say, wait a minute, this isn't a money problem. This isn't a thing problem. This is an emotional, I have to learn and change and transform who I am problem. Next slide, please. So what I started to do with my middle ground is I started to develop this idea of contentment. And truth be told, there's a lot of quotes. My favorite is that man's happiness really lies in contentment by Mahatma Gandhi. Doesn't matter what brings you contentment, as long as it is true and it's something that's perpetual and something that you will continue to move you forward. It could be several things, but you need to practice your life in moving towards the activities and the things and the ideas and the people that bring you that contentment. When I discovered that, I said, I've changed my mind. All of a sudden, having a rich mindset was easy because it wasn't about how much money I could keep. It wasn't about constantly spending to make myself happy. It was about taking things in and then using just enough for my basic needs to make myself just happy enough that I could start giving out. And all of a sudden, I was more and more content because I kept giving more and more of my time, money, and energy. Next slide, please. I started gaining a lot of wisdom. Truth be told, in order to gain that wisdom, I had to have mentors. Here's Rocky. That's Mick right there, right? And here's Rocky himself being a mentor to Apollo Creed, right? Or that's not Apollo Creed. That's Apollo Creed's son, which is, I forget his name all of a sudden. It's Creed from the movie Creed.
Yeah.
Adonis Creed, there we go. So as you can see here, I started getting mentors, helping me understand more of this wisdom thing, realizing that wealth was something that happened when you change your mindset, you change who you are, and all of a sudden opportunities and other people start gravitating towards you. Why couldn't I get a lot of dates when I had a lot of debt? Why could I still not get dates after I had some money? Because it was my actions that were coming out, and when I started changing who I was, that's the moment that everything started changing towards other people. People started reacting to me differently. I exuded contentment, so people were gravitating towards me. I started realizing that when my mentors helped me understand that, and then I was able to help other people and give back. And it was a vicious cycle. The more I learned, the more I wanted to give back. The more I learned from that, the more I wanted to give back. The more I learned from giving back, the more I wanted to learn, the more I gave back. It's a beautiful, vicious cycle. The more you do it over and over again, it is a perpetual cycle of contentment. Next slide, please. And I started identifying, I did this first by identifying what qualities of a mentor I would want. There are 4, please, if you could get down all 4. First, this person takes a personal interest and helps. This is somebody, if you want to be content, you need to find people in your lives who care about you. You need to go out and find people who are willing to sacrifice, maybe not all their time, but some of their time, to have a relationship with you, have contact with you. You have to help them and they will help you. Or sometimes you just have fun together. But this is a person who takes a personal interest and helps you. They also serve as a role model, coach, and confidant. Now, Zach, I love very much. Zach, would you say that you serve as a role model for me?
I'm your role model?
Would you say that?
No.
I will say that you definitely qualify for number one. You help a lot. You definitely should have a personal interest in us being friends. Sometimes, in some ways, you are a role model or a coach to me. It isn't always the case. But there are definitely things that you have experience in where more often than not, we have this mutual relationship. Okay. Now, it may feel like it's mostly me to you, but you know, I would say for me, it tends to be a pretty even street. It's up to you. Everyone interpret it. Sometimes helping you teaches me a lot more than you think. Sometimes you helping me, when you're not realizing it, you don't know that. Okay. And we're always confidants with each other. This is also going to be somebody who offers knowledge, insight, perspective, and wisdom. Somebody who's going to want to model and coach you, but doesn't have any personal value. That's like saying I have a friend in college or grad school who says, well, I know how to handle money. You use credit card points and you do this and do that. It's like my buddy in Boston who told me that him and his wife in 10 months got $1,200 in cash back on their credit card. And I said, dear God, you know what that means? That means they almost spent $100,000 on a credit card in 10 months. That's a lot of money. I'm like, that can't all be rent and groceries and gas. All right. There's a lot of fun stuff there. So really what that means is you're just spending a lot of money. He's trying to tell me, oh, here's how you take a lot of your excess income. You basically spend it all. Then you get these points and there you go. That's how you get to be, good with your finances. So he may be a great confidant. Maybe he's somebody who cares about me personally, but he doesn't have the wisdom or the knowledge or the perspective. So I'm going to tell you right now, you're going to find a role model to help you learn this contentment thing. Make sure you find somebody who is probably older, who has or had more experience at the very least, who has that wisdom, insight, and perspective to help you move forward. They're a good friend, but they actually know what the hell they're talking about. Okay. I love Sandeep. And Sandeep trusted me to help him learn how to squat. I haven't seen him squat for a while, but he actually did pretty good at it the last time I saw him do it. Have you gotten better at squatting, Sandeep? I heard that you're all the way up to like 300 pounds now. So. Oh, very good. I tried teaching Zach. It's hard. So
Come a long way.
that is true. But above all else, this person is going to help you become successful. They may teach you and have a personal invested interest in you, but they're going to be around for the long run just to help you become successful. If you find this person, you can then become this person, and that vicious cycle perpetuates itself. It's not one thing. It's not money. It's not your weight. It's the whole philosophy that you have to bring together that brings you that contentment. Next slide, please. So I'm going to show you my captain mentor, Mr. Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey, boys and girls. This is my captain mentor. I never met the man. I've listened to a lot of his podcasts. I've listened to a lot of the shows. I listen to the people that work with him. Everything about this guy shows that it's possible to pretty much always be content. He isn't always content, but he usually is, because he has positive energy and he feeds positive things and people into his life. That to me is, I follow this man by example. Doesn't mean I listen to everything he says, but a lot of things that he talks about, he has a lot of validity to. He's lived it. He's experienced it. And when he doesn't have all the answers, he finds somebody who has that answer and he puts them into his team. So he has created a system that a lot of people follow. And for those who have a religious bend, I'm personally Christian, everything he does is from a biblical perspective. So everything he does is that foundation that moves forward. A lot of people see that and they respect that. It works for a lot of people. Next slide, please. When I started listening to him, right about 2015, 2016, a lot more. I didn't realize it when I was getting out of debt. By the way, I went from 2015 to 2012 to 2015. In 3.5 years, I got rid of $60,000 of debt. I got to a zero net worth with no debt in 3.5 years. And my average after-tax take-home was about $25,000 a year, which means I lived off of $10,000 a year while paying off debt. That's pretty hard to do, all right? Now, I didn't realize it at the time, but the majority of principles that my parents taught me that I applied to that, I actually used his principles in the process, most of them, okay? So Dave Ramsey knows what he's talking about. I found that out after the fact, ironically. But the more and more after the fact, especially with his wealth building routines and his other personal finance things helped me a lot. I also discovered that a lot of what he talks about is based off of this pyramid right here. Who knows what this pyramid is? Okay.
Maslow's hierarchy of needs.
Absolutely, this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I can tell you that mostly when you're dealing with student loan debt and day-to-day living, it's really these bottom two that you really only have to care about. But I'm gonna tell you right now, most days you're trying to care about the top three, aren't you? Am I being loved enough at work or at home? I don't know if I can handle this project. They're asking a lot out of me. Let's be honest here. Like, I feel like I'm an important part of society, but this guy's kind of racist, and I don't like how that makes me feel. All of these things right here are important. They're very important to who we are as people. If we don't actually solve these problems, we will never truly be happy. But a lot of times we try to become happy up here without focusing first on our happiness down here. Let's be honest. Are you breathing right now? I think everybody in this room would say yes, otherwise we'd have to call somebody. Do we have food? We brought food tonight and it was delicious. Is there water here? Yes. Did I have sex today? No, but I may in the near future. Sleep, homeostasis, going to the bathroom, all of these things are required for physiological stability. Can you imagine if you weren't able to go to the bathroom? You might die pretty soon. Then they might literally say you're full of crap, right? So how about safety? You have the ability to live somewhere. Do you need to live in a really nice fancy apartment? Andrew, can you live in downtown Erie if you actually have to?
Not by choice.
A choice, but you may not have a choice.
Right.
Donna James, you live in Norfolk, don't you?
Yes, sir.
Would you say that you live in a comfortable, safe part of Norfolk?
I would say yes.
Okay, so she has safety. Merrick, do you live in a safe part of Pennsylvania?
Yes.
And by the way, I've learned, after walking through Pennsylvania, I can say there's one truth about Pennsylvania. You have Pittsburgh on one end, you have Philadelphia on the other, and Alabama's in the middle. So if you can trust living in Alabama, you can feel like you're safe in Pennsylvania. It's true, Merrick, it's true. So you got a lot of safety there. You got a lot of things that you feel good for. I've got 4 walls and a roof. When I was on trail, we were lucky if we had 3 walls and a really bad roof. A lot of times we didn't. All we had was a tent. And I've been in 30-mile-an-hour winds with rainstorms and everything. I was hoping to God I could find a shelter or something, or I hear bears in the background, half a mile away, and I'm like, there's nowhere to put my tent. That's fun. I don't have security or any type of safe environment to sleep in at that moment. And even if I did find a tent, I'm not sure I'm going to get a lot of sleep. That's more important to worry about that moment. When you start realizing that there are more important things for you to be worrying about, and when you've actually met those needs, that's the moment that you say, wait a minute, I'm better off than I thought I was. Maybe there's a lot of things for me to be grateful for. Maybe the friendship, the family, maybe the self-esteem, maybe how spontaneous or adventurous I can be, all those things that help us really move to full self-actualization, that help us move towards full contentment, will help us develop over time. Next slide, please.
I will warn you as you call in
If I could
have a
please pause this for a second.
Year.
All right. I'm going to ask Andrew to turn up his volume as high as he can. Can you do that, Andrew?
Says my volumes are maximum. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
volumes are max.
All right,
Can
play,
you hear the
Andrew.
audio on your share?
Play, Andrew. Turn and press play.
Thanksgiving tradition on the Dave Ramsey Show that when you call in order for me to talk to you, you have to tell me something you're grateful for. What are you thankful for? My friend Zig Ziglar, who passed away about this time last year, used to say you need to have an attitude of gratitude. You need to have something you're thankful for. Did you know that grateful people are extremely attractive? You know what's unattractive? You know what's ugly? Ungrateful people. And you know the interesting thing about that is you can decide right this second. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I'm grateful. You can just be one of those grateful people starting right now. Ready? Grateful people smile. Grateful people aren't stressed. Grateful people open the door for other people. They have generous hearts. They give. Grateful people don't run hate websites. It's hard to be grateful and hateful. You can't be both at the same time. You really can't. If you have a particular area of your life you're not grateful for, you will become hateful in that area. And you know, the interesting thing about gratitude is not only is it very, very attractive and opens doors for you, because think about who you want to hang out with. When you help someone, maybe you just knew about a guy that was hiring and you knew another guy that was looking for a job, and you said, hey, go over there and talk to George, he's hiring, and the guy gets the job. And when he gets the job because you sent him over there, he's grateful. And he can't believe it. And for 5 years, he tells everybody about how cool you were and how you helped him. He was grateful. You know, the next time that guy needs something, you're going to break your back helping him because he's grateful. It's fun to help grateful people. It's fun to give a lift to, give an encouragement to, connect, help them make money, help them get a job, help them open a business. It's fun to do things for grateful people. When you're grateful, you're attractive. This is an important holiday in this hateful culture we live in, where everybody's decided it's all about them, walking around looking for a chance to be offended about something. Maybe we just need to be saying thank you, giving thanks. Gratefulness is powerful. By the way, there's an interesting correlation here. Kind of been studying this lately. Rachel and I wrote a chapter in her book. How do you create children in this go-go consumerist culture that are content? In a culture where that your happiness is based on the next thing you buy for everyone else, and you're watching television, you're seeing billboards, people hang out at the mall for entertainment, Lord help us. In a culture like that, how do you create children that are content? Rachel and I, we've talked about it and prayed about it a lot as we were writing this book on smart money, smart kids, teaching kids money. We did a whole chapter on content children. Now, I'm not talking about children that aren't ambitious, and I'm not talking about children that aren't working, and I'm not talking about lazy. I'm talking about content. There's a difference, a lot of difference. And I don't know if it's the whole answer, but I can tell you that there's a correlation. Very few content people are ungrateful people. Gratefulness has a tendency to create contentment. It's unusual for someone to be content that's not grateful. And it's unusual for someone that's grateful to not become in that process content. I'm grateful for my car. Lord, I'm grateful for this job you gave me. It makes me content in it because I'm grateful for it. When I'm hateful about it, I'm kind of self-centered, selfish, prideful, entitled. It's kind of the opposite. And those are the most discontented people on the planet, have you noticed? Nothing is good enough, ever. Now, there's a difference to be driven to excellence, and man, I'm all about, I've had meetings in my office this morning where I'm driving the lane. Man, I know it's the day before Thanksgiving, but we got stuff to do around here. We're stepping and fetching, and a couple people, we were working on stuff, and I'm like, what the crap you're doing? Get this going here. That's different. That's coaching, and that's saying, hey, go play the game with excellence. Strap on a helmet and hit somebody, baby. This is what it's about. That's different. That's not a lack of contentment. That's excellence and passion. Those things can coexist. But contentment is a state of being in your heart. It's a spiritual experience, and it's tied to your level of gratefulness. It's a great holiday we've got here, Thanksgiving. It's a fabulous holiday. And I'll go ahead and take it one step further. And I mess these things up, by the way. I'm not the teacher here sitting here saying I've got it all figured out. I'm just kind of studying it, and it's also convicting me and saying the guy in the mirror can work on these things. I'm grateful, but because I just tell people all the time, if I wasn't me, I'd want to be me. I mean, really, I got a good life, but and then there's other times I'm not, and I'm hateful. And those are the times I'm discontented and anxious and stressed and worried. And aren't those things tied together? Do you feel that? Does that pass the common sense smell test to you folks? I bet it does. Let's take it one step further backward. If gratefulness creates contentment, or is at least directly tied to it, what creates gratefulness? What's a prerequisite for you to be grateful? This one I'm sure of. Humility. People who are prideful are seldom grateful. People who are humble are usually grateful. Now, humble is not, I'm a worm, I'm a doormat, I'm awful, I'm horrible, I'm never going to be anything. I sing those hymns, I'm a worm, Lord, I'm a worm, Lord. That's not humble, that's stupid, and that's lacking in self-esteem. I'm a king's kid. I'm very happy to be humble and be a king's kid. So humble is not humiliation. Rachel has a great line that she stole from somebody. She says, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. Not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less. You think about others. And you know, the axis of the world really doesn't run through the top of your head. It's not all about you. So when you're prideful, you're seldom grateful, and you're seldom contented. When you have a level of humility, it gives you the ability to be grateful and say, thank you, thanksgiving, giving thanks. And that leads you into contentment. That's a financial lesson. That's a financial lesson for Thanksgiving.
All right, move to the next slide, please. This moment, even though we're a little over time, because honestly, this project used to be 45 minutes to 60 minutes in the old Toastmasters format, and they somehow moved it to 18 to 22, which is ludicrous. And I know I'm over time, but I'm going to go ahead and finish out this project, this time to share for all of us. I want everybody to either open the PDF that I sent out in an email earlier, or if you were here, you can look at what's on your desk in front of you. It's the needs versus wants journal. Now, I sent this to everybody via email. So you can download it right now, and I'm going to ask Andrew Bullock to create a breakout room for Donna, Tammy, Merrick, and himself. And I would like everybody to start right now, take a few minutes. I'm going to put down the timer. Mr. Timer, can we please have about 3 minutes on the clock? Maybe about 4 minutes. Okay, or somebody else, about 3 or 4 minutes on the clock. If we could go ahead and we could identify, if we're going to go to to Thanksgiving in about 2 weeks, and we're really going to say, what are we thankful for? Let's first try to realize that we have needs and wants, and we are grateful that we can meet our needs, and we may be even grateful that we meet some of our wants. And from that, we can begin to identify what this contentment thing means for us. I want you to take about 3 or 4 minutes, and I want you to go through and identify 5 to 10 needs, 5 to 10 wants that you have in your life. If you have more than that, there's space for that. And then we're all going to discuss. Everybody's going to partner up. So I would like my Toastmaster of the day to partner up with Zach. And I would like Lee to partner up with Priscilla. And I would like you three to partner up back here. And we're all going to discuss in about 3 or 4 minutes what our wants and needs are. And everybody online, discuss your wants and needs as well. And go. I can tell you one thing for sure, I want lumpia. It's delicious. You need lumpia. I felt that way actually once I realized we had them.
About 3 minutes.
Oh, it's been 3 minutes? So once you guys feel comfortable and you've identified your wants and needs, just go ahead and start talking to each other and put another clock for about 5 minutes.
Family. Yeah, of course it's choose your friends. The support system is a thing. I noticed when I was yeah. That's all I got. Stimulation. You need help. Wants to happen.
So did Donna, Merrick, Tammy, and Andrew have a good 5-minute discussion?
We had a 4-minute discussion, and yes, we did well. You want us to go back into the breakout room?
If you guys have more discussion, absolutely. We're discussing here until about 8:14.
Okay. Give me a second.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. Sorry. Like the longest time, I was like, I want kids. Let's just, it's already right around this time of year.
We're talking about wants versus needs. If you got time to participate, we'd love to have
Food, water. Yeah, I mean, like financial security. I guess wants, purpose, like every one of us experiences just and then carbon transport. That's a good question. That's it. Always in the middle of the Maslow hierarchy.
Before tonight, we would have all set up a blunt lumpia. After eating it, we decided we needed it in our lives. It's more of a need. So that's some of the better lumpia I've ever had.
It's interesting how needs it sort of.
Like it's yeah. Every few years, I think it's keeps changing, I guess.
Yeah.
Depending on the technology. Yes. Yes.
I would encourage you to keep your needs simple.
Okay. Purpose is pretty simple.
Purpose?
Purpose.
That's not simple. That's too broad.
Okay. That kind of simple. I think that.
Purpose is more self-actualization.
True. But I mean, it's still
It's
a
not-
need. Without purpose, why would it be alive, you know?
It's more of a want.
But what's my purpose then?
That's something you get to discover through time, but your purpose is ultimately a want, not a need.
It's more of a
If that's the case, then buying a sports car if it gives you purpose is a want or is a need. What gives you purpose? A great job with respect? No, that's self-actualization. And that's a want. No, there's no Venn diagram. It's want or need.
I still think.
Think of a need as like Maslow's hierarchy at the bottom, and a want is like the top.
I still think it's a need.
We need to be content to be happy, but
You know,
it's on the other way around.
I'm a super genius. Therefore, I'm right. I have no idea.
Every
If you're comfortable with it, then that's fine. But I can tell you right now that.
more of a need than a want.
So what I can tell you is that there's no perfect answer, honestly, when it comes to Maslow's hierarchy. I mean, he's pretty explicit about certain things. So if you consider that as a need, that means that you need to be high. That means you feel that you need to be on the Maslow's higher order hierarchy for a reason. So what's really driving that need right there? So uncover that, because purpose is really broad. So uncover the details of what you mean by purpose, and then you'll see what is needed. Because really your target, there's something else that you're obfuscating. Something else that you're obfuscating when you're saying purpose. There's some underlying need that's really there. Maybe it's a desire to feel respected. Maybe it's a desire to feel accomplished. Those are completely different. Those are part of purpose. Okay, so really that's what I'm talking about. You need to dig deeper, make it simpler. And then what you're driving at is probably level 3, which is love. Okay, think of level 3 as somebody loves you, and think of level 5 as you give back to others, and therefore you're loved for giving back to others. So that's level 5. That's different level. That's different level of Maslow's hierarchy. So maybe what you're saying is I really want to feel level 3 because I'm saying level 5, but I want to feel level 5. All right, everybody.
Yeah.
How did we do? Boys and girls, how did we do? Ladies and gentlemen, everybody online, how did we do?
You did great.
Great.
All right. Now that we've shared, and I've actually discussed this with Zach and a few other people, there's this idea that we want our wants and needs to be somewhat simple. I think some people started kind of broad, and then maybe they focused in on some wants and needs. Does anybody want to share what they have as a want or a need, or even a few wants or a few needs? Share it
Okay,
with-
I can
Yes, John?
share what we put together. So I was in a group with Merrick, Andrew, Tammy, and myself, and the following items were identified. For some were humorous in nature, and then we got a little bit more serious as we went along. But first, Merrick and Andrew both said they wanted and needed some scotch.
That's a really good one.
And then Merrick said he needed to go to the gym, learn to use financial calculator. Andrew added to his scotch request and wanted to go to the shooting range and needed to lose weight. Myself, I wanted to be stress-free.
That going to the gym is probably a need. Health is a need.
But that's all perspective, isn't
Probably
it?
more of a want. Just saying. Donna, what else are you saying?
Myself, I want to be stress-free and financially free. I need to have my student loans paid off and lose more weight. And Tammy she wants to do an African safari and she wants to pay off her student loans.
Donna, both of yours sound like wants and not needs. But they are very good wants. Well, you don't need to pay off your student loan. I mean, the quicker you do it, the happier you'll be, absolutely. But you could live your whole life.
Isn't that, and sidebar, isn't that based on a person's perspective? You know, to discount, if someone expresses that as their need, that is their viewpoint.
Yeah. So when that's where we start blurring the lines of wants versus needs. Yeah. If you're grateful, you need to be grateful for needs. But if you say, I need to have my student loans paid off and they're not, therefore you're going to feel discontent and you're going to feel ungrateful probably for people who do have their student loans paid off. You have to look at it this way. Look at that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Where, like, if you think about me having my student loans paid off, that's probably more related to comfort. It doesn't have to deal with physical security. It doesn't have to deal with having a house. It has to deal with feeling like you're important and that you're going to succeed and go forward in life. That's either level 3, 4, or 5, right? It's probably level 4 or 5. So as you go higher up that pyramid, it's more of a want, but lower is more of a need. So if it's level 3, it might be able to go either way.
What'd you bring back?
But paying off your student loans is probably level 4 or 5.
Oh, no, I'm good. What's the matter? Why you say that?
So I would say to you, Donna, it really depends on your perspective. Yes, and it can go either way, but I would be careful to anybody here and anybody online. Learning what is a need and what is a want and how it properly says who you are as a person. That's the key to this exercise, and that's what I want you to take away from this. You see this list? If you identify your needs and your wants, and you say, I'm comfortable with this, then I want you to continue saying that every single day for the next week. We are going to be back here in a week, are we not? That's why you got 7 days front and back. I want you to comment every day, tomorrow, Thursday, Friday. I want you to, for the next week, every day, I want you to look at this sheet and I want you to journal about what are my wants and what are my needs. So today is day 1. Day 1 is Tuesday. We've talked about our wants and our needs. Why don't you write something about that? Journal a little bit. Think, okay, have my needs been met today? How about my wants? How can I improve my life so that my wants can eventually be there? And it is true, I overheard that needs and wants will change over time. Absolutely. When I was 20 years old, I absolutely thought that I wanted to party as much as I possibly could, that I needed to, and that I wanted to date a hot chick, right? That's what I felt I needed in my life. Truth be told, it was probably a want because I was 20 years old. And I'm a very happily engaged man right now. But let's be honest, I don't have to be super happy. I don't have to be dating or married to a supermodel to be super happy. I can just find the right woman, which I have, okay? That's the difference between a want and a need. So our perspective will change on what is a want and a need over time. Take this week to analyze what that is. To analyze truthfully your wants and your needs and how you're meeting them in your life, okay? What about this group over here? The amazing trio, what'd you guys come up with? Did you guys find any unique wants or needs?
We notice a pattern perhaps between the needs and wants. You start off with a need that's pretty basic, and then your wants kind of always took the extreme end of that want. or the need.
That is true.
For example, transportation to a high-tech car, or one was shelter that turned into a luxurious house.
I can tell you my need is a reliable car, and my want is a reliable car that I don't have to fix for 10 years. But it doesn't always exist. It doesn't always exist. So absolutely, I agree. Well, yes, sir.
I said one of my needs is fulfillment, because I think that's what we're all striving for at the end. You know, we're just trying to be fulfilled and have a sense of importance at the end of our life.
Would you not say that that's more like being self-actualized and that's higher in Maslow's needs? Wouldn't that be more of a want?
Yeah.
Okay. Also, fulfillment is a very good answer, but I would say it's a little broad. You want to be more specific about it. What truthfully do you want? When you say that I want to be fulfilled, well, does that mean you want to be respected? Does that mean that you want to be loved? Does that mean that you want to eventually be very important at a job and make lots of money? Is it more important to be respected or make lots of money? Is it important to not be taken too seriously and being able to have fun at any moment, at any whim's moment, to be adventurous? What does that fulfillment actually mean to you? Because being adventurous is part of my fulfillment. If I don't have that in my life, if I don't go on hike for 6 months on the Appalachian Trail, I don't feel fulfilled. But I guarantee you, Luke could probably go the rest of his life without living in the woods for 6 months and feel fine, right, Luke? No, apparently that's an important thing. So how about back here? What do you guys think? What do you guys and gals think?
We agreed on like a car. A car is a really like it's. He said that the you know like you don't there he knows a lot of people that don't need a car to get where they're going, but like I need a car because I work 30 minutes away from where I live, so I need a car. But like I want, for example, a year ago, I have very reliable newer Honda Accord, right? It's almost paid off. A year ago, I was like, it's almost paid off. You know, it's time to get that big bad boy truck that I've always wanted. So I went to the lot, and the first truck I saw, I bought it and walked off with an $800 payment every month.
There you go.
And then about a year later, I was like sick of putting $90 in freaking gas in this dang thing. I don't need it. I just wanted it because it made me feel cool. So I sold it.
How much is your rent every month? You might split your rent with somebody else, but what's your portion of the rent?
It was $800.
Your rent?
Yes.
And how much? And your car was $800 at the time.
Yes.
If your
And
car
I did
payment,
pay off my car payment, yes.
if your car payment is more than what it costs to live at your house, you might be a redneck. So you have a car, you had a car, it was great, and you wanted that truck. So, but you still love it apparently.
I do love it, but I did sell it, and I was very sad about it because I still have my Honda. You know, it's still very reliable. It's all I need is paid off. I don't have to make $800 crazy payments.
That's right. How about you, Lee?
I kind of went with Maslow's, mostly food and shelter, job, living. When I got to money and car, we had that discussion. I mean, probably most people would say car is a need, but like I said, I work with people that don't have a car, they don't drive. They get rides, they ride a bus, they walk, they ride a bike or whatever. So maybe it's not a need for them. And so that's where I kind of got balanced off or started getting kind of mixed up and circling around. Some things could be a need and a want.
You know what I want every year? An annual vacation, at least one, maybe two. That is a nice want, right? It doesn't have to be a really expensive one, but it's just a really good vacation. I could spend $1,000, go visit a friend for a week and a half, and come back and feel refreshed, right? All we do is hike and play video games and eat really good food, and you know, maybe even watch some South Park. That's great for me. It's a really nice vacation. That's a beautiful one. So, how about back over here? Zach, what was your need?
I need you to wrap this speech up.
Okay, I can wrap this speech up.
The support system is one of the one things that, I don't think anyone else has mentioned. Is this support system that's a need, or is that like a sort of a general want?
You need to be more specific.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, like, okay, friends, family.
So to feel this, that's level 3. To feel loved by friends and family is level 3. That can be a need in your life, but it can also be a want if you don't have that. It's up to you. I mean, there are people who live with, maybe they have a few friends, but they don't have a lot of friends. And to them, it's not a large desire to feel wanted. Those people aren't always the happiest, but for them, their needs and wants are different.
Are they truly happy?
Some people are very inner. Some people are they draw their source of power by being alone. So, and maybe they have a wife and, a couple friends, and that's all they need. Do they need somebody? I don't know. There's some happy hermits out there. Yes. So do you have anything you want to add to this?
Shelter.
Shelter is the most important need. I don't mind living in the ghetto. I've lived in the ghetto of Baltimore before. That was one place I'm never going to live after the rest of my life. But I can tell you right now that having some form of shelter is important. I've actually lived in 3 walls from day to day. So having a 4th wall is a really nice luxury. I can tell you that much. Having a roof is a really nice luxury too. All right. I'm going to wrap this up, but you guys have all seen this. You have a journal here. Once you've identified your needs and wants, today, tomorrow, Thursday, you're going to journal on each one of these needs. Are they being met? You're going to journal on these wants. Are they being met? And whether or not that's a good or bad thing. Journal on this. Let's bring this next week. We'll have a quick discussion about this with our educational session. And that was that. Toastmaster.
Toastmaster's question, right?
Works. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Robert, for the inspirational and engaging speech, which was very long. Nonetheless, it was superb. Anyways, let's get a timer's report. So David, can we get before that, can we just give a round of applause to Miss Donna James and also Robert Riggs for the names. All right, now let's get a timer's report.
So Donna James had a time of 6 minutes and 2 seconds. And Robert Riggs, before the interactive activity, had a time of 36 minutes and 47 seconds. And we just finished at 57 minutes and 27 seconds.
Yes.
Awesome.
According to traditional parameters, I actually would have been just in time, because traditionally it's 45 minutes to an hour. But when they changed the platform, they pushed this entire thing at 18 to 22 minutes, which is impossible. So I apologize, everybody. Yeah. But,
Correction, it's impossible for Robert Riggs to accomplish.
I said at least 25 to 30 minutes.
Well, awesome. Well, shout out to Robert for that hour-long speech. All right, so let's take a 5-minute break and let's gather back at 8:35.
All right. Get the lumpia before it's gone. Otherwise, I'll eat it.
Where I work.
That's from your restaurant? Oh, okay.
Yeah, my friend George that I talked about Filipino. So he knows how to handle.
I've never had it with
He handles.
the spicy version like that.
Well, that's from a friend of his
That's
that
good.
makes sauces.
Different
So
taste.
that's one spicy and one sweet.
Okay. I was good for spicy.
Oh, that.
So
Yeah, that's
they-
hard.
Yeah, sometimes he comes in the restaurant and he makes the sausage there.
Yeah, this is that.
We did a lot of work today.
So what do you eat chicken?
Yeah, they took the everyday night fish, Fish. I don't
No. Chicken.
I eat chicken, I can eat lamb, I eat lamb.
Lamb.
That I knew what I was talking about, because I went in there and I was like, you're not supposed to install all joints like this. And you were like, oh no, we had to install like that.
Right.
What's
What did you install?
That's it.
Chisel.
They have meat. They were-
Excuse me?
That might-
Freaking chisel?
And then I had a bunch of meat.
And they were like, oh, so they replaced the bearings, right? The wheel bearings. And they were like, oh, well, whenever we replaced the wheel bearing, we didn't touch our assets. And I was like, have to physically. I didn't do that.
Movie is dying.
I don't even think you can do that. That's not, like, you can't do that. Like, you have to unplug it. You have to unplug it. How did you do that?
Yeah, bagging up all goods. All together.
Yeah, they got good reviews. Like, they're good.
Yeah, a lot of people come through. Yeah, it's a lot.
Like, why do you think I don't know what I'm talking about?
By the way, Merrick, that is an excellent question. What if all your needs are taken care of? You should identify your wants and your strive towards them. Contentment is the ability to have your needs met and to balance your wants in a way that provide happiness for your life and the happiness of others. Fair, right?
Yeah, I'm here. I got it.
So you also yeah, we go every day.
All right, Lee.
I used to go every day, but now I can't because my schedule.
I get developed.
A year ago, I used to go like Monday to Saturday.
You
I was like,
make
super
it
yes,
easy.
I almost saw abs. Almost for the first time.
Yeah, like.
Yeah, just a little cut right here. I was like, shoot. I was every time I went to the restroom, I was like, take one. You know when you get to that kind of built, like you start saying, yeah, it looks
So now we are.
How are you looking right now? Take your shirt off.
Oh my God, I think I see the abs. Like that part right now, dude.
Trying to grow it for some time.
You start, how many days do you work?
Yeah, 5-6 days.
Oh, seriously?
But yeah,
Push pull leg, right?
and today suppose on Tuesdays I go because I come here. So that's like my rest day.
Do you go every Sunday too?
I go, yeah, I usually go.
Now I'm gonna pay you cash.
5 days I go.
You do push pull leg, right? That's where you just stay.
Yeah, push pull leg,
Yeah.
and then I do cardio one day. Then I combine the push and pull into upper body workout one day. And then I do the legs. So legs I do twice, upper body twice. Then 1 day of cardio.
Do you like leg day?
If I were like.
Yeah, leg day?
Leg day?
Yes. If you like it, that means you're not working.
I mean, like it's tough.
Dude,
It's damn tough.
If you like have no rest, dude, your legs, like I couldn't like basically like
Yeah.
just gave up. Like,
For $11.
I did like when I did leg day, I did like 8 sets of like 8 reps of squats. Dude. It's like 8 sets, dude.
8 sets.
Are you doing it max?
No, just like hypertrophy. Make it burn, make it burn.
Yeah, so that was for everyone. High reps, low weight.
So it sounds like, here we go.
Well, I've always done like that big legs.
This right here, this is the one that we did 10 minutes ago. So if you only need to-
Chicken thighs right here. Chicken thighs. Or your son, how you?
That's the one. That's the one. I started like last November, and that was the time like when I went raw.
Right.
So my roommate also works out. I used to go. He was like he was on training, like, but now it's like separating. We have different. I go
On the basis of
like
it.
and then I come back at 9. He's like, he goes after 9.
Are we supposed to-
comes like 9. So he's
It's like the best time to go though.
it's empty. It's completely empty.
The 25 minutes.
That's the only other place.
Get back in gym, man. Yeah, it made me so much.
Really loud at one time. There you go.
There, all right. Awesome. All right, I'm calling the meeting back into order. We'll now transition over to our table topics portion of this meeting, which will be hosted by our guest, Mr. Zach Phillips. Yes.
As long as there's legislation, it's also a yes.
Yes, yes.
That's it. Okay, all right. Thank you. All right. Perfect transition. All right. Who's ready to have some fun? Who's ready to have some fun? Well, you spoke for like an hour, so I'm not calling you.
You're done, man.
Your time is over with. Be gone with you. All right. Let's start with Sandeep. All right, random. Okay, come up here first, actually. All right, Sandeep, Ronnie. Right. If you had to name one thing that makes you stand out from others, what would that be? Actually, a pretty simple one. Softball.
If there is one thing that I would say, like, I can sell myself for, I would say, like, I try to not give up. That's what I would say. Like, if anything, if someone challenges me to do this thing, but if he says like, I can't do this thing, then I try my best to actually do that thing and show it to everyone that I can do this. I'm not like just going to walk away from this challenge. So I'm basically someone who loves challenges. So any problems or any tough situations that life throws at me, I try to like handle it as best as I can. And so that's basically who I am. So I would say that skill of mine is something which I'm going to cherish for my life. And I would say that makes me stand out from others. Yeah, back to you, Toastmaster.
Thank you. Basically, your stick-with-itness.
Yeah.
And your ability to, take.
Not give up.
What's a good example of that, like that you can relate to immediately in your life? I mean, you can sit down if you
Immediately,
want.
like I can, we go to the gym and like even that's a good example. Like I try to push to the extreme. Like I try to do that extra 2 counts, which are the most important to like get the maximum growth. That's something which I can say immediately. Like so, I push my limits. I try to push my limits more.
It's good that you're always, going outside of your comfort level.
Yeah.
And pushing yourself. And I have that in some areas, but in other areas, I mean, we all have our strengths and our weaknesses. But yeah, I mean, it sounds like ultimately you are trying to do more, seeing more challenges, facing more challenges, and not sweating the small stuff. So yeah, good answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, so next up, Luke Dobbs. Do you want a question or a sentence?
Sentence do.
I don't know. What does a sentence do?
A statement that must comment on.
But whatever you do, it has to be behind the lectern.
Yes. All right. Okay. Sentence or question? Sentence. All right. Here we go. This might be like a story. I have no idea what's going to go on. All right. I'll try to get one that's not too random. He liked to play with words in the bathtub. So you can make a story starting with that sentence. He liked to play with words in the bathtub. Or I'll give you courage.
Let's go with it.
Okay, great. All right, wonderful.
Thank you, Table Talks Master. He really did like to play with words in the bathtub. I'm sure we all had them growing up, perhaps. Do you remember? The little squishy toys. They're all the shapes of letters. They'd stick on the wall. It was actually educational material, wasn't it? You'd spell out words, sometimes naughty words, on the bathroom wall. Quickly swipe them down as soon as you heard the door open up. But
Yeah, I remember this fondly. I mean, there's the same thing we had for, perhaps we could transfer those over to the refrigerator. It's kind of interesting when you think about that toy. It's really kind of silly, but it takes on a few different permutations. I can also think of SpaghettiOs, the words, you spell them out. But it was still fun, even though we didn't realize we were learning in the time. But he did like to make words in the bathtub.
All right. Thank you, very well played. You know, the way you basically took that, yes, that sentence and ran with it. Yeah, I don't think I ever had any sort of like spelling sort of stuff as a kid, but I definitely remember soap that, you know, you could write on the walls. And I don't even think it worked, but you know, like we bought it at Toys R Us, which is now debunked, you know, toy store and all this stuff. But anyways,
Not if you go to Canada.
not if I go to Canada. Okay, cool. But yes, I don't really remember, but I definitely remember, you know, like alphabet soup and, you know, the alphabet cereal and all that stuff. So yeah, good stuff. All right, next up, Priscilla Hernandez. Good question. I am going to give you a choice. Have you ever seen a movie that you thought was better than the book? These are actually pretty simple questions.
I'm gonna say no. For example, the Harry Potter series, I'm a huge Harry Potter fan. I love the movies, don't get me wrong, but the books are like in so much detail and there's a lot of things that you miss out. Like for example, like Snape and the love story between Snape and Harry's mother. Gone out of the movies, you know, like it has like a little snippets, and one of the, I hope I'm not giving any spoilers to those of you who don't watch Harry Potter, but like
At this point, it's done.
it's already done. There's one movie in particular that you're gonna watch. If you watch it, highly recommend watching it. 'Tis the season to watch it. And if you watch this part of the movie, Snape he has like flashbacks before he. Don't worry about that. He's having flashbacks for whatever reason, and there's like little snippets of him being in love with Harry's mom, but it's not like the book, man. It's not like the book. So yeah, I'm just gonna say no. That's my biggest example.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, I tried to watch the first Harry Potter and I actually fell asleep to that. So I mean,
that's the worst
I
one.
hadn't read the book either, and the book that I keep trying to do to try speed read is read that book.
You haven't seen any of the Harry Potters?
No, I haven't read any of the Harry Potters.
You've seen the Harry Potters.
I've seen one and I fell asleep.
I'm gonna make you watch the rest of them.
They aren't that good.
Oh,
Ask Priscilla.
they
Just
get
ask
really
Priscilla.
good.
Just ask Priscilla. They aren't that good, right?
Do you at
That's
least
basically.
watch Marvel movies? And do you have you ever read Marvel comics?
I've purchased a comic.
Trust me, when you watch Harry Potter like 4, 5, and 6, you're gonna be like, this movie's amazing. Like,
Okay, all right.
the first one sucks. The rest of them are pretty good.
I'm just gonna ask someone online. Andrew Bullock. Andrew Bullock, what is the last big goal you accomplished? Or you can answer the sentence. You can make a story about the sentence. Two options here. Nobody has encountered an explosive daisy and lived to tell the tale. Either or. Which is hilarious.
Wow, that's deep. No one has encountered an explosive daisy and lived to tell about it. Wow. Well, that would mean that is the perfect assassin's tool. And that seems like something that I would enjoy. As everybody knows, I'm a huge pyromaniac. So explosives and fireworks, they really get me going. Exploding daisies. Ooh. I could use that as a revenge tool on somebody. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Here, have a daisy. Let me just stand over here, though. Yeah, absolutely. I could totally see somebody actually using that as a tool, specifically the Joker. The Joker used all kinds of daisies that sprayed acid or laughing gas or whatever, but exploding daisy. Now that's fun. Yeah, I could definitely see that happening. All right, back to you, Zach.
Thank you, Andrew, for that little riff on the explosive daisy thing. I think in the original Batman movie, or one of the episodes, I forget the guy who plays the Joker. He had like this like lapel, yes, and like one of the episodes he like sprayed the like laughing gas or something into like the audience or something. I don't know. This is a long time ago. But thank you for that great little rant on explosive daisy. Okay. Do you have time for a couple more? Yes, no, maybe so.
One more.
All right, one more. All right. Merritt Green, you can either answer the question. I'm just going with this as it is. What's the last thing you complained about? Or you can do like a general rant on today is the day I'll finally know what brick. Today is the day I'll finally know what brick tastes like.
Brick.
Pickle Rick?
Brick.
B-R-I-C-K.
Pickle Rick.
I think I'll take the rant part of that.
All right.
So I think I might have told you guys I started a new job when I moved to Pennsylvania. And one of the things that drives me absolutely crazy is the email etiquette rules in my new job. For example, I was asked a simple question today. What am I going to do, or what's going to happen once my Facebook admin rights go away? And I read the email and it said, click the link, follow the instructions, and you should be back to your old profile. I read the email, I clicked the link, and I responded to the email simply with one word, okay. Then I got a frantic text message from my boss that said, oh no, what did you do? You responded with one word, no salutations, no hello, no good evenings, no goodbyes. You need to recall your email immediately and resend an email that says the following words. And I looked at the email for a while. I could feel my blood pressure going up just a little bit because I'm like, really? Like, this is what people have to worry about is email? And so what I did was I actually took the email that she sent me with the salutation and words in it, copied it, pasted it into the new email, and I hit reply all and send. My really, really sarcastic way of not editing one bit of what I was told to do, but literally just sending it right back out the way it was sent to me. So in the same day, I told my supervisor that we are doing things with people's PII information that we shouldn't be doing, but yet I get a response about a one-word email where nobody cares about private, personal, identifiable information. So that's my rant for the day. I'm looking forward to going to work tomorrow, and I have a video to share with my boss about how email really works, and I'll share it with you guys if you want to see it. It's pretty hilarious. But that's only after I'm going to do my 1-hour evaluation of Robert Riggs' speech.
Thank you so much, Merritt Green, for that. Was it me? Was I being obfuscated, or did that have absolutely nothing to do with brick whatsoever?
The other one.
Oh, okay,
You have
okay.
two choices.
All right, you said something. All right, great. So I was the one that was obfuscated.
Yeah, you were obfuscating him.
Obfuscating him. All right, so thank you so much for that table topic. And hopefully it wasn't too confusing, too obfuscating. And I'm going to turn it over to our the Toastmaster of the day, who is going to introduce our general evaluator.
So thank you, Zach Phillips, for the treating questions, and shout out to the people who answered them. You guys gave out quick-witted responses, and I have to admit I was pretty impressed by them. So if you thought you didn't do good as you thought you'd do, when you came up here and you gave your impromptu table topics answer, it's okay. Don't be hard on yourself. This is a place to fall back and get back on your feet after all, because it's Toastmasters and it's all a learning experience. So anyways, we'll now switch it over to our third portion of the meeting. Can we get a timers report?
So Indeed had a time of 1 minute and 2 seconds. Luke Dobbs had a time of 1 minute and 6 seconds. Priscilla had a time of 1 minute and 8 seconds. Andrew Bullock had a time of 1 minute and 14 seconds. And Merrick had a time of 1 minute and 58 seconds.
Sweet. Awesome. Thank you. A round of applause for everyone who contributed. Anyways, all right, let's move on to. Oh, okay.
The sergeant at arms pass out the ballots to vote?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, okay. Yeah. Good.
That's what Merrick Green put in there. Who is Harry Potter? Merrick Green knows exactly who Harry Potter is.
One of the hobbits, right?
Yeah, he's one of the hobbits.
Hilarious. Hilarious.
Awesome. All right. So we collected our votes, which will be counted shortly. We'll now transition over to our third portion of the meeting, which will consist of evaluations, which will be hosted by Miss Tammy Adama, who will be evaluating Miss Donna James's speech on Isn't Family Funny?
So even if Donna was here, I would not obfuscate her on her evaluation. She stood up, which is great because a lot of times when we're on Zoom, it's so easy to just sit back in our chairs and kind of relax and do our talk that way. So it's really good to see her standing. We can see more of her gestures and how she, wanted to jump over the fence, et cetera, which was really good. She does wonderful with humor and adds it into most of her speeches, but we could really relate to it this time because it had to do with family and how many of us don't have funny things that happen with our family, right? So that's always a great subject. People can relate to it. We loved her acting out the fence and the bull, something we wouldn't have been able to appreciate as much as if she had been sitting down, then we would only got part of the effect. So what I love about Donna is she brings the funny. She includes it in most of her talks, and it really makes people want to pay attention, and it's always a good thing to add when you can. If I had to give her something to work on, I would have said her vocal variety, because there's something, but there was some, but next time she might want to work on that a little more, because for instance, her voice could have been deeper with her dad, and she had other family members in there, so she could have played around with those voices a little bit more. Something to challenge her. Lighting could be better, so I would give that to her as a challenge for next time. You can buy these ring lights and they're relatively cheap, but if you don't have the money or you're not interested in going that far, then you can always take a lamp from this room and another one from this room. If you need to, take off the shades and that'll bring in some more light. You can put in a background if you'd like, and then you can direct it a little bit more. And there's so many YouTube videos on do-it-yourself lighting and backgrounds. And so you can get away with a lot, especially on Zoom. For those of you that are in person, you have the perfect lighting and you don't have to worry about those things. But when you're on the computer and on the internet, you do have to think about all these little things. And that would be it. Thank you, Mr. General Evaluator or Toastmaster?
I'll take it from here. Thank you, Tammy. Thank you for that wonderful evaluation. Our second evaluation will be by Merrick Green, evaluating the very long and drawn out presentation by Robbie Riggs.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Andrew. Timer, how much time? I'm just joking. So here we go. So it's always a pleasure to listen to Robert Riggs give a speech. And I have to say tonight, I think when the timer was getting briefed and they said 5 to 7 minutes, and he said, no, it's 18 to 22, I was a bit surprised. I was like, did he pull out the old Toastmaster manual and go to an old speech to do tonight? But then I realized that this is, once I read the evaluation criteria, that this was a speech that needed to be a little bit longer, because the evaluation criteria says that this project is for a member to practice developing and presenting a longer speech. The member will develop an engaging keynote style speech, which I think this was. The speech was very humorous and informational, and we could tell Robert did it in his own style. I think you did demonstrate excellent presentation skills by using PowerPoint and stressing out overusing it and making sure you had a plan and a backup plan to present the slides. This speech is not supposed to be a report on the content of the Prepare to Speak Professionally project, where he doesn't talk about the content of preparing to speak, but he actually, Robert, I think you could have prepared and given this speech professionally to a group of people that needed to have this information. And as I listened to your speech and as I evaluated, I think you did a really good job of starting the speech. Initially, I was trying to figure out where you were going, but I was able to get on track and follow you. You did a great job of using the emojis and the memes in your PowerPoint presentation to tell a story. And I think this speech would not have been as good if you didn't have the PowerPoint to go along with it, because you would have did a lot of talking and people would have had to do a lot of imagining of the things that you were saying. But like when you use the example of the one picture that had the 2 footsteps and which way to go, especially when you use the memes about, if you don't, if you max out your credit cards, then the scammers can't get you. And you had these 2 contrasting ideas or reasoning, or logical reasonings that you were using that completely didn't make any sense, but you were able to utilize them in your own thought process and present them in the speech. So I think that was really good. I think you told a great story about how you started here and then how you got here to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And then you used Dave Ramsey as your expert to say, this is why you can say that these mistakes that you made early in your life, you paid the price for them, but now you found a mentor or some resource that's a valued resource or an approved resource and a respected resource to change it all around and get you to a better place right now and be content where you are. So great story and walk through the process. I think your speech was really good and meaty, if we can say that. And there was a lot of information that you provided to the audience. What I think you could work on next time is stay on time. And I really tried to find something, like you didn't really give me a whole lot to work with as far as what you could do better the next time in this speech, until you got to the end of it and you kind of said, hey, I know this was supposed to be this long, but hey, it is what it is. So when you handed me that present wrapped with a bow and a sticker, I had to use it basically. So you knew it, we all knew it, just stay on time. But I think it was an excellent speech and you probably should present this again. And I look forward to hearing more about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Merrick, for that very detailed and in-depth evaluation. David, can I get a timers report on our 2 evaluators, please?
Tammy had a time of 2 minutes and 32 seconds, and Merrick had a time of 3 minutes and 29 seconds.
Yes.
Just in time. All right. Let's go ahead and vote for our best evaluator.
Only I had some,
Of course.
only had a ballot.
Should have done that. Trust me.
You didn't tell me that.
Well, Luke said it like halfway through. Yes, okay. Some is okay. I mean, it's okay. Luke obviously is okay. David. Yeah. You get a Sean ballot?
Thank you for asking me to give that again, Merrick, because I think I'm gonna give it next week, but it's gonna be 2 hours instead of 1.
Thanks for the warning, Robert.
All righty. While we're waiting to tally up those votes, I'm going to go ahead and get a roll report from my Grammarian odd counter, Mr. Dobbs.
Thank you, General Evaluator. If I may, I will reverse order and start with my all counter, my all counts. So, there's one for me. I have Sean coming in with 2 so's, and these are so's that are abrupt interjections, is more of a transition or an abrupt transition. Andrew I did not get anything from Andrew or Priscilla, and I must say I commend Priscilla as a fellow newer speaker in your discipline and not using filler words. You're very good with that, and I admire that. I counted myself with 3 uhs. David with no filler words. Zach with 3 ums. Donna with 1 so. Robert with 2 so's. Sandeep, I had 2 uhs, 2 likes, and 3 so's. And Merrick, I had 2 ums and 2 so's. That is my counter report.
All that time, I only want 2 so's.
I may have given up after all.
We sympathize.
On to grammar. Some new notable uses of turns of phrases, as Elizabeth would say. I noted the visual and evocative phrase, eyes as big as 50-cent pieces, from Donna's speech, which I thought made a nice image and really brought apart what she was trying to convey. And her colloquial use of the term can't cook a lick, which I thought was a neat little folksy term. Robert had a phrase that kind of twisted my mind a little bit, the beautiful vicious cycle, which I wasn't really sure which way you were going with that. Was it negative or positive? But made me think, And I have to, want to talk about the word literally for a second. I think it's the most misused word in the English language, maybe very obfuscated, a word that I can't even say. Congratulations. So literally means to take the literal sense of a phrase, and a good litmus test for whether you're using literally correct or not is there a figurative version of what you're saying literally in front of. So I have to commend Robert for using literally twice in its proper term. Once with literally fail a test, which could mean you actually got a failing grade in the test, and also failing to meet your goals. And he also used it in another way, but I'm not going to say it because it's not very family friendly. Literally full of something, if I remember. Which, if you couldn't, yeah. There was another, let's see here. So that was it. That's all I have for my grammar. Thank you very much. Back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Dobbs. Appreciate your report. Priscilla, let's test our knowledge and see how we did on listen up and use of the word of the day, obfuscate.
I think it's obfuscate, isn't it?
No, obfuscate.
I think it's, I'm not sure.
No. Okay. So I'm gonna start off with how many times people have used the word obfuscate. The last efforts do not count, all right? Not counting that, sorry. Let's try. Zach used it the most, he used it 4 times. Tammy used it once, and Luke used it once. If there's anybody that I missed, not including the last 12 seconds, please let me know.
I did use it once when talking to Zach.
You did use it once.
And Andrew also used it once.
Yes, you both did, and I missed it. My apologies. On to the questions for Listen Up. Let me see how many of y'all were listening. So for Donna James, she was explaining that her dad was asleep on the couch, and there was a phrase that her dad said while he was asleep after he did a bodily thing. Does anybody remember?
Answer the phone, answer the phone. Apparently he woke himself up and thought it was the phone.
Yes, yes, it was answer the phone, sure. What drives Merrick, sorry, my apologies. Merrick crazy at work?
Merrick Maverick Green gets driven crazy at work by email etiquette that is overtly annoying and obfuscates the real reason why they actually are at work.
Awesome. What was the title of Robert Riggs' speech?
Wait,
That's
hold on.
good.
It was.
You got it.
Yesterday.
The Power of Contentment.
Yes. How long? Oh, you know what? No, I'm asking a better question. From what year to what year did Robert pay off $60,000 a day?
2016.
Thought I was gonna get y'all with that one. Yeah. You got it. What is the quote by Mahatma Gandhi that Robert had in his speech? That's a good one. I think I got y'all with that. Look at you. Wheels turning, don't even know.
Merrick's like holding it up in the, right now in the PowerPoint. No.
No. It is man's happiness really lies in contentment. Got y'all. I'm good. I'm real good. All right. That is all that I have.
All right. Thank you, Priscilla.
That was really good.
It was really good. We have to do this more often so you can keep us on our toes. All right. Special thanks to David for keeping us on time. Well, with the exception of Robert Riggs. All right. So next will be my journal evaluation, and I will share my thoughts on how things proceeded. Now, we did start a little bit late because we were trying to make sure that everybody was in so they could fill their roles. At least we started the meeting and then put it on pause until we could get everything together. One thing that I would like to address is the handing off of the lectern. We're still getting used to that little thing, bumping the fists. Some people just kind of walked off the lectern without acknowledging the other person coming up to replace them. We just got to step up on handing off the lectern a little bit better. One of the other things that I wanted to bring up is time management. It is very important, no matter what we do, to stay within the confines of our speech. The speech requirement is there for a reason. It is a challenge for us to fulfill the speech requirement. if you elected to do a 25 to 30-minute speech, your speech should fall within that limit. Because if you can't maintain the time requirement of the speech, you're throwing off the rest of the program. We're actually already 10 minutes late concluding the meeting because a speech that was supposed to be 25, 30 minutes ran on for over an hour. We can't have that. So in the future, try to make sure that you keep your speech down to whatever the confines of your speech requirement is. Other than that, everything was fantastic. We had some excellent table topics, and the evaluations by far have been very superb this evening. I really appreciated how both of our evaluators had something to say about each point, where our speakers did well, what they could improve on, and giving them a challenge for the future. This is how evaluations are supposed to be done, giving them the proper amount of feedback so that we can encourage people to come back and do better the next time they come up to speak. And then I want to thank our Toastmaster evening, who, despite lack of, I would say, a little bit of experience, he really made this meeting run as smooth as he could. And I look forward to seeing Sean serve as Toastmaster evening again soon. All right, well, that concludes my journal evaluation, and I will hand it back over to our Toastmaster evening, Mr. Sean Markle.
Thank you, Andrew. So that pretty much wraps up the meeting or gathering for tonight. This is my second time doing Toastmaster evening, so kind of was a little rusty, but I hope it, like Andrew said, I think it went somewhat smooth-ish.
You're pretty
awesome.
good.
Thank you. And that's about it. I will switch it over to our acting president for today, Mr. Zach Phillips, for some closing remarks.
Much, Mr. Sean Markle. Once again, you did a really good job at Toastmaster evening. You add your own little unique spin to just something that could just be as dry as, here's a speech, here's a speech, isn't this fun? Can I get a timer's report? No. Yeah, you did your own unique little thing, especially in the beginning, and it was awesome. Great job. I want to thank Lee Walker for bringing in Shadow Lawn Eats and these pamphlets. Take that. Yes. Great food, great lumpia. I had probably at least $17, $18 worth of lumpia. So yeah, good job. So announcements. Once again, we're meeting next week. Andrew, real quick, do you want to pull up the agenda for next week?
Not really, but that's what I want.
We're just doing an educational session.
Yeah, educational session.
Table topics?
Well, I think that right now we're doing a table topic, and Priscilla's going to give a speech, right? So we probably need at least one evaluator. But yeah, we'll sort of forget about that since we're running over. And yeah. But anyways, yeah. And then
I'll be table topic master next time.
Okay, great. And then after that, off for the rest of the month. And then we'll meet December the 7th. And 14th is going to be a holiday party. And then off for the rest of that month. So best speaker goes to Donna James.
My speech just wasn't good enough.
If you truncated it a little bit. That's obfuscation. Maybe not like, I bet 5 to 7 minutes of it was Dave Ramsey, which, he's a great speaker and all. But anyways, Donna James, best speaker. Hand it to somewhere in the world. Then best table topics goes to Eric Green. Eric Green, ladies and gentlemen. That was, I presented. Oh, great. There you go. All right. Handed it right off. Yes.
I love it.
Yeah, it was a pretty weird table topic session. I like to try and spice it up a little bit. But yeah, he answered really, really well. And so, yeah. Anyways, and then finally, evaluations. Mayor Green again. Mayor Green again. Mayor Green again.
Do you have another ribbon there, Mary Green?
I bet he does.
It probably does. Yes!
You were the best evaluator for this meeting. And anyone have anything to say before we wrap her up? No?
Merrick, can you send those skins to Andrew and I?